WMAL News Time 7:07. It's Brian Eben in for Andy Parks, along with Fred Grandy and Bill Thompson. This is the hour where we dig a little deeper to get to the bottom of the big stories of the morning.
During that period, with Nazism and fascism growing, a real danger to the United States and democratic countries all over the world, there were people in this Congress, in the British Parliament, saying, don't worry, Hitler is not real. It'll disappear. We don't have to be prepared to take it on.
Okay, that is Senator Bernie, how about that, Hitler Sanders, accusing people who somehow deny the existence of global warming as being the latter-day Neville Chamberlains, which inspired us to contact Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma, and one of the leading, how shall I put this, Senator, deniers, hoaxers, I don't know. I know you were part of that hearing yesterday. And by the way, when you were last on this program, you called this. You had just come back from Copenhagen. You said, you wait, cap and trade will be dead, but next we'll be arguing about whether or not the EPA should be having the power to regulate greenhouse gases. And sure enough, that's what this hearing was about, correct?
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Well, so what's going to happen? I mean, are you guys who are perhaps in the camp that says global warming is unsettled science going to prevail, or does the administration have a clear rein to regulate this?
No, it's a tough issue, Fred, but this is the way it's going to work. First of all, yeah, I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that 7 years ago said it's the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people. So the liberal blogger, they hate me anyway. Mm-hmm. I've never been called Hitler, though. That's a new one for me. But here's what happens, and I want your listeners to be able to pull my website up, inhofe.senate.gov, and you can hear the exchange between me and Lisa Jackson. By the way, the administrator, Lisa Jackson of the EPA, I really do like her personally. She's just put in this huge, this awkward situation. So we now have a situation where if you will look up and see this report that I put in yesterday, we talk about the proof that the scientists that were involved in this whole thing obstructed the release of damaging data and all this stuff. I won't go into details on it, but that's what they did. That science is not real, and this is absolute proof, and that what they did. Now, where do we go from here? We have right before we went to Copenhagen. I can't remember whether we talked about this last time or not, but we had Lisa Jackson before the Environment Public Works Committee, and I said, Administrator, you haven't done it yet, but you're going to have an endangerment finding. To do that, you have to base that on science. On what do you base it? What science? Well, she said the IPCC.
Oh, wow.
That's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate. That's the United Nations. They're the ones who
no credibility problem there.
No, none whatsoever. And so at that time, though, the Climategate had just come out, and so people thought, well, that's just, they played it pretty light. Well, we went to Copenhagen. 9 hours over, 9 hours back in a 2-hour speech, and it was really well worth it, I have to say. Because, I was following after John Kerry and Barbara Boxer and all these people, Obama and Hillary, saying, yes, we're going to pass cap and trade, and I made it real clear we weren't. Anyway, so this is how they thought they would do it. This is the president speaking. He would say, well, you can't pass this through Congress. You don't have the votes to do it, and therefore, we're going to fix you. We're going to go ahead and do it administratively. So if we have an endangerment finding, that puts CO2 in with real pollutants like SOx, NOx, and mercury, and all that. And that means that we can regulate those under the Clean Air Act. Well, there are some problems here. First of all, they have to show that it was based on science, and I can imagine the lawsuit starting in around March or April being filed saying you're going into this thing under the assumption that the science was behind you on this, and yet all that science has been, the courts will have to make a decision on this.
All right, speaking of that, Ken Cuccinelli, the new Attorney General in Virginia, he signed a petition asking the EPA to reconsider its findings that greenhouse gases pose a threat to humans, and I know other attorneys general around the United States have done that. Will that do anything, Senator, and can the states do anything to stop the EPA from doing what it's going to do?
There's another state that did it, too.
Yeah, Texas did it, I know that.
Texas, yeah, and I talked to Rick Perry about that he is, they're just not going to let the government do this. And so I think, yes, there is something they can do. They can get behind it, and they can put so much pressure on members of Congress. One of the outs would be to pass legislation, which I think it'd be interesting to get some people online as to whether or not they want to go along with this. Keep in mind, what we're talking about here, Fred and Brian, is something we've talked about before. This would be the largest tax increase in the history of America. This is a range that would be between $300 and $400 billion billion every year.
Mm-hmm.
As bad as the $700 billion bailout was, at least that was a one-shot deal. This would be every year.
But from what I'm looking at this morning, your arguments, obviously, about it being unsettled silence seem to be prevailing, but yet you have people like John Kerry, whom you referenced, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and Joe Lieberman now combining on some kind of bipartisan energy legislation. What is in that? Is that a real compromise, or is that just the same circus in a different tent?
No. The key is cap and trade. Cap and trade is what costs money, and I don't see that goes all the way back to and including the Kyoto Treaty way back a long time ago. Now they're trying to do the same thing with you had the McCain-Lieberman bill of 2003, the McCain-Lieberman bill of 2005, then on up to 2008, and each bill we defeated by a larger margin because people were catching on as to what the cost would be. So if they come up with something, just a face-saving thing, saying, well, we encourage maybe a little bit of nuclear and a little bit of green energy or something like that, and they don't have cap and trade, that would be strictly a face-saving effort. And I think, yeah, they could do that, but so what?
But so in other words, you don't think this is a camel's nose under the tent situation like the regulatory license that the administrator of EPA seems to have now?
No, I don't think so. I think that they almost have to do something because they're out on that limb and people are looking at them. And all I hear when I say that it's dead, they say, oh, no, it's not because Lindsey Graham and John Kerry are going to pass something and they're counting votes right now. But it's not going to be my only concern. And, I got involved in this 8 years ago, and is that we don't pass anything like a cap and trade bill. And for them to do what they want to do, they got to have cap and trade. And you might say, why cap and trade? Why don't they just put a tax on CO2?
Right.
That'd be more straightforward, more honest. Well, the reason is that way people would know how much it's going to cost. See, if they have cap and trade, they can make everybody think that they're a winner.
Yeah, they create a complicated formula that nobody can understand.
Yeah,
you're right.
It looked like the IRS.
You mentioned Lisa Jackson. You said you liked her personally, that she was in a tough spot. She said yesterday, she testified that the science behind climate change is settled and human activity is responsible for global warming. That conclusion is not a partisan one. Are you saying that she's in a tough position? Do you think that she doesn't really believe that, but that the administration is kind of forcing that on her?
Yeah, that's what I think. Keep in mind, she's the one that said that first of all, that it was based on, and I'll read it to you, for the proposal, the agency relied in large part on the assessment reports developed by the IPCC. So she is basing it on that, and now that's been completely defunct. She has also said, and this is the reason I compliment her, is that she tries to get out of the awkward situation.
Right.
They ask her, what is it that what would happen if we passed this, either the McCain-Lieberman bill or one of those bills, or if we did it through the Clean Air Act? She said, well, it would not have an effect of reducing CO2. And I think common sense, we all know that, because this would be only in the United States of America, and the jobs that we would lose would go to countries where they don't have any emission restrictions. And in my opinion, it actually increases. But we do know it would not decrease it. So why go through all this economic punishment if we're not going to get anything done?
Right.
So that was Lisa.
Can I ask you, hold on for just a quick second, we're going to do traffic and weather. We have a couple more questions we want to ask you, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Senator Inhofe is our guest here on the Grandy and Morning Show, WMAL News Time 7:15, traffic and weather together, and here's Jamie.
All right, I do want you to know that 395, your jam coming out of Springfield, and that delay continues over the 14th Street Bridge. However, the crash near 12th Street on the freeway is now cleared, and all your travel lanes are open. That's what caused that extensive delay. Beltway between Annandale and Tyson's, it's just been the volume. Chantilly, the crash, 50 near Stonecroft Boulevard west of 28. Also, there was one near the Battlefield on 29 Lee Highway near Bull Run Post Office Road. Maryland, you've just been heavy on the brakes with the volume south of Laurel on the BW Parkway. 270 now pushing through Germantown and through Rockville. Jamie Whitten with traffic every 10 minutes, first on the 5s.
6:30 WMAL Weather Channel forecast. Winter storm watch in effect from late tonight through tomorrow night. 1 to 3 inches of wet snow is expected. A few spots could get 4 inches of snow. Partly to mostly cloudy today with rain, 46. Rain changes to all snow overnight, 33 the low tonight. And Thursday, mostly cloudy, windy, and snow showers left over, a high of 38. Right now it is 39 at Reagan National, on the way up to 46 today. WMAL News Time 7:16. Grandy and Andy Beyond the Headlines continues.
And our guest is Senator James Inhofe. He is the ranking Republican on the Senate Environment Public Works Committee and one of the early people to kind of blow the whistle on global warming. And Jim, I want to go back to something that you said and you pointed out. You said what the administration would not be able to get legislatively through through cap and trade. They will try to do through regulation, and based on the hearing yesterday, that has happened. I'm wondering if you're not seeing a trend, and I think I am, that's not just limited to energy legislation. For example, the administration is now saying we're going to have a health insurance regulatory agency that will set premium rates, violating the state compact with regulation. You've got a consumer finance protection agency that will apparently be presiding over the financial sector industry. So, in your view, is this becoming a broader-based problem than just energy?
Oh, it is. A long time ago, I said every institution that distinguishes America from other countries is under attack by this administration, and we're seeing that. By the way, I heard your weather report, and I sent an email to my daughter Molly. You remember Molly when we were in the house?
Sure, absolutely.
She's now grown. She's a university professor, and it was her family that built the famous igloo. And I said, You better get up here. There are 4 inches of wet snow coming. You might see that again. Let me mention two things that are very significant. First of all, the scandal, the Climategate, it affects more than just the climate. The deeper they get, the more they uncover. And like the Daily Telegraph over in the UK, they said it's the most serious scientific scandal in a generation. I could read for 45 minutes all these things that the publications have said about how bad this thing is. And the fact that they talk about the science being settled on this thing. Phil Jones, you've been reading about him. He's now under investigation over there. He was kind of the collection point, the CRU, the East Anglican thing. He said, and this is a quote, "I don't believe that the vast majority of the climate scientists think the debate is over." And that's what I tried to use yesterday, and I would hope, since this is a complicated subject, that people will access my website and read the detail. Rush Limbaugh did it yesterday, and I think he really enjoyed it.
Well, will there be an investigation? I mean, look, we're investigating Toyota now. Can we investigate this?
Well, we've called for, and I want to clarify this because it was not quite accurately represented, for the IGs of the NOAA, of NASA, of the EPA to get involved and do an investigation. Yesterday, I asked Lisa Jackson if she would ask the IG to investigate, and I didn't get an answer. So we have made that official request. Now, if it'll end up, I think, then in the Justice Department after that. There could very well be criminal violations here over in the UK under the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. They said that was one that is now a proven case, but the statute of limitations has run, so they can't prosecute. Well, they might be doing that over here. I don't know.
You've also called for an investigation of the IPCC, obviously, the UN panel that shares the Nobel Peace Prize with Al Gore. But who investigates the UN? It's the UN, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, the UN. They said some time ago, yes, we're going to investigate the IPCC. And I said, wait a minute, you are the IPCC. It's been there. You got to laugh about these things, really, because. But anyway, we're going to win this thing.
Senator, always great
Thank you, Senator.